A very good morning to all. Welcome to your English class. Students, today I am taking your storybook David Copperfield. Previously, we have discussed up to chapter number 12 of this storybook. In your previous chapters, you were told about David's struggle to reach Aunt Betsy, David's new life, new name, and another beginning in Dr. Strong's school. Today, I will explain the summary of chapter number 13. I choose a profession. In this chapter, we will talk about David's new profession. David was very confused whether he was happy or sad when his school days came to an end. David talked to his Aunt Betsy many a times about his career, but he couldn't decide what he wanted to do further. So, Aunt Betsy suggested him to take a short holiday, which might help him to take his decision properly. David decided to travel to Yarmouth and visit the Peggotties and then go to London for a few days. Firstly, he visited Wakefield at Canterbury and then went to London, where he met Steerforth, who accompanied him to Yarmouth to see Peggotty. They went there. Peggotty was overwhelmed to see David. They both burst into tears and hugged each other, and then went inside to meet Barkis, who was in bed with a disease marked by pain in the joints, muscles, or tissues. It was rheumatism. Barkis greeted him with great joy. They sat and talked for a long time about the old days. Then they went to meet Mr. Peggotty, Ham, and Emily. Ham told them that he and Emily got engaged. David congratulated them and stayed with them more than a fortnight. Fortnight is a period of 15 days. Soon David received a letter from Aunt Betsy. She advised him to choose the profession of a proctor. Next day they went to Spenlow and Jarkins. Thus he began his professional life. Now this is chapter number 14. I fall into captivity and meet Treadles and Mr. Micawber. One weekend, Mr. Spenlow took David to his country home. There, David met Dora. Dora was the daughter of Mr. Spenlow. She was very beautiful. She had the most delightful voice. David fell in love with her. Then David met Miss Murdstone. Who was Murdstone? Murdstone was the sister of David's stepfather. She was introduced as a confidential friend and a protector of Dora. Means Miss Murdstone was taking care of Dora. Next day, David went to Treadles, who used to live with Mr. and Mrs. Micawber. David was very happy to meet all of them. They talked excitedly of old times. Then David invited Micawber's and Tommy to dine with him next night. Next night they enjoyed dinner together. David was sitting by the fire when Steerforth came in with a letter from Peggotty informing about the critical condition of Barkis. Now, this is chapter number 15, A Loss. In the evening, David reached Peggotty's house. Mr. Peggotty opened the door. He was not surprised to see David, as it was expected. Peggotty came and took David in her arms. Then they went upstairs to meet Barkis. Barkis was lying in his bed, very weak and senseless. Like the tide, his life was slowly going out. They sat by him for a long time. Suddenly, Barkis opened his eyes and with a slight smile whispered, "Barkis is willing." These were the words which he uttered when he told David that he was willing to marry Peggotty. These were the last words spoken by Barkis. Then he went out with tide, means then Barkis died. The day of the funeral passed slowly. David planned to take his old nurse Peggotty with him to London next day. But in the evening it was raining heavily, and it was looking like a wild night. Meanwhile, Ham came and began to cry. Mr. Peggotty asked about Emily from Ham. Ham told that Emily had run away. She left a note saying that she was going with a man whom she loved. If he would not marry her, she would never return back home. Mr. Peggotty asked Ham about the man. Ham told that the name of that man was Steerforth, and he was a damned villain. Now, this is chapter number 16, Changes. By this time, David was deep in love with Dora. He wanted to marry her. They kept it a secret for a long time, but David told it to Peggotty and Agnes after some time. After this, one day, Aunt Betsy and Mr. Dick came to David and told him that she was ruined. David tried to cancel his training with Mr. Spenlow and Jorkins so that he could secure his aunt's money. But Mr. Spenlow didn't allow him to do so. David met Agnes as she was the best adviser to him. He told her about everything what had happened since their last meeting. After some time, David proposed Dora, and his proposal was accepted. Finally, he was going to marry Dora. It was looking him like a dream. Aunt Betsy, Peggotty, Mr. Dick, and Triddles all attended his wedding at church happily. Thus, David resumed his journey with Dora. Though he was happy with Dora, but she knew nothing about housekeeping. Aunt Betsy and Dora became very good friends. David worked hard at studies and work. He loved Dora a lot, but he wished that she would share her work and interests. By the end of the year, Dora seemed to become weaker. David began to carry her downstairs every morning and upstairs every night. As the time passed, she became weaker and lighter. Now, this is chapter number 17. I am involved in a mystery. David and Tommy Triddles received a mysterious letter from Mr. Micawber. They took Aunt Betsy with them and decided to be very punctual in keeping appointments with Mr. Micawber. They met him at Aunt's house. They asked him the reason why he was so upset. He burst into tears as he was betrayed by Uriah Heep. They all tried to console him by making him feel that he was among the friends and he could share everything what had happened to him. Mr. Micawber told them that he wished to expose the traitor Heap, and this repeating the name of Heap, he left home in a state of aggression. After a while, David received another note from Mr. Micawber, through which he wished to convey his apologies to David's aunt for his aggression and excitement. He fixed an other appointment with all of them at Canterbury. Here comes chapter number 18. I assist at an explosion. This time David, his aunt, Mr. Dick, and Treadles, all four, went to Mr. Micawber's old house. There they met Mr. Wickfield also. Then they went inside Mr. Wickfield's old office, where Uriah Heep, astonished means surprised to see them suddenly. As Mr. Wickfield asked to take care of all the finance affairs of Aunt Betsy, she used to think that she was betrayed by him. But now she came to know that the real traitor was Uriah Heep. Now they told Uriah Heep to tell that place, and Uriah Heep came to know that their meeting is not an accident, it is an appointment fixed to explore him. Micawber requested Mr. Wickfield to forgive him as he took his signatures to a document due to which Mr. Wickfield became a debtor of a vast sum. Now they all forced Uriah Heep to pay back all the amount to Miss Betsy and Mr. Wickfield. Here the story of chapter number 18 ends. Thank you.